getting America back on track. Bill Martinez live.
Well, you knew it wasn't going to be easy, right? And we do it because it's hard, because we are Americans, not Americans. It's 6 minutes after the top of the hour. Bill Martinez here with you, and we've got Isabel Soto joining us. She's the new Libra Policy Director, and they threw her into the deep part of the swimming pool to be with us this morning. Isabel, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well. Hey, really happy to be on the show. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to have you here. We really want to hear, the perspective, from the Hispanic community in terms of what they thought of Biden's, America as he presented his ideas in the State of the Union this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unsurprisingly, the president led with saying the State of the Union is strong. And he actually cited the Hispanic community to support that point and said, we had record low unemployment levels. And, this is a great sign. That's accurate information, but that's not the whole story. He's missing out on a lot of nuance and also the fact that that was something our community did. Mm-hmm. It's not as a result of any action the Biden administration took.
Okay, break that down and help us understand what happened. I mean, the thing is, we know about the Hispanic community. They've got entrepreneurial hearts. They're hardworking. Naturally, it's just in their hardwiring, isn't it? I mean, this is something that they do. They took God for his word when God said, go out there, be fruitful, multiply. And that really spoke to the productivity of our humanity. And this is what I was raised with, being Hispanic myself. And some people don't quite understand that no matter what the government does, the Hispanic community is going to make a way and find a way because that's what they do.
I absolutely agree. I mean, I was raised the same way. Mm-hmm. This is an extremely resilient community. And we're coming out of, some of the worst employment situation that not just the Hispanic community has seen, but our country has seen. Mm-hmm. And to have seen such a massive dip in employment, and then as a community to be the leading labor force participation in this country is huge.
Yes.
We also contribute an immense amount to gross domestic product. Some of the latest data are showing that if the Hispanic community in the U.S. was a country on its own, it would be the fifth largest economy in the world.
Wow.
So, we are helping drive the growth in this nation. And we, in some ways, just need to be unburdened by unnecessary regulation. We need to allow small businesses to grow. And the Hispanic community will thrive, and with it, the rest of the U.S. And that's not what Joe Biden is doing right now.
Mm-hmm. That is the consistent theme, Isabel, is that we've got to get government out of the way. Ronald Reagan, said it so directly when he, made that statement. One of the worst things you want to hear is I'm from the government and I'm here to help. That has not been, the consistent experience, that government has become more a hindrance because it seems that their agenda, and especially with this administration, is antithetical to growth. Because at every turn, there's a problem. I mean, even in dealing with the energy sector, the president is disingenuous in suggesting that people who are in business, who are, investing in energy and energy development, we know that in order to set up a refinery or to set up an oil manufacturing plant or processing plant, you're talking, it takes a number of years and billions of dollars. And Joe Biden throws it out there like, well, hey, we might still need oil for about the next 10 years. What do you mean we might need oil? What are you talking about? I mean, that isn't even scientifically sound. There's nothing that would give us an indication that we're going to be able to go and be fossil fuel in 10 years. Much less 20, maybe even 30 years. I don't see any evidence that would give us hope that that's the case, even after all these decades that we've invested in natural energy. Where are we on this? I don't have the confidence. I don't see the indication that Joe Biden is trying to tell us that, all is going to be hunky-dory. Maybe if we all, become Amish and, buy up a buggy and a horse maybe, but not the way America's industry has been operating, in the recent modern era.
I absolutely agree. I mean, and when you throw out, such a throwaway line like that, we might need oil for the next 10 years, you are completely trivializing what is a massive, massive industry in the U.S. and all of the people that work for it.
Yes.
And, 10 years, you may or may not have a job.
Right.
There's no understanding of the consequences of a statement like that.
Yeah. It's rank arrogance and hubris on his part to make that kind of statement, because it disenfranchises, a fellow human being. I mean, because what do we want? We want to be productive. We want to be able to be rewarded for our hard work. We want to know that there's a future and a hope. And Joe Biden's America is in many ways very hopeless, because, let's start from the very beginning. Day one in office, he kneecaps the country, kneecaps, our economy by canceling, fossil fuel development. And puts a pox on it, and then wonders why the cost of gasoline goes up, and he just feels like it's the cost of doing business. Well, for him, he's not feeling the pain, because the people are still paying his $400,000 a year salary and whatever else he's getting on the side. That still happens per usual. So, and last time I checked, I don't think that Joe Biden pays a gas card credit bill. Do you?
I don't know about that. Can't comment quite on that. But what we're talking about is,
well, what I'm saying is he's not sharing the pain. He's not sharing our pain, right? And then for him to do this, and then this is probably the single worst thing that he could have done to exacerbate inflation and throw us into a yet to be announced recession that we're all have been dealing with.
Exactly. And you were mentioning, the things that we actually want. And we as a community, the Hispanic community, our number one issue is the economy. And let's talk about the state of the economy for a second. You already brought up inflation. Mm-hmm. He wants to talk about what kind of records we're setting. We can talk about that record as well. Let's not ignore what happened last year. 40-year high year-over-year inflation. I don't know what's going on if we all, just forgot that this happened. But this is a primary policy issue we need to address. Being at 6.5 right now is not an accomplishment.
Well, the smart economists who know better, when they look at the numbers, have determined that Biden's America is costing every American at least $7,500 to $8,500 more a year. And even if you got a 4% pay increase, that got absorbed and wiped away, right? Oh
yeah, you're losing the money that you should have been making. You should have been seeing increases. But
exactly.
All of that has been eaten away by inflation. And economic committees.
Yeah, and like Grover Norquist says, don't even look at your 401k. We've got more from Isabel. Stay with you. 19 minutes after the top of the hour, fresh and independent, just the way you'd like to hear from us. I'm Bill Martinez. Isabel Soto from Libra Initiative continues with us. When President Biden stood before Congress and the American people to deliver his State of the Union address, he told us the State of the Union was strong. He cited efforts to curb inflation, pointed to the Hispanic unemployment rate, which hit a record low in September. And as Isabel pointed out, there seems to be no correlation between the policies of Joe Biden and the success of the Hispanic community. Some might argue, Isabel, that in spite of those policies, the Hispanic community, because they are a strong force in and of themselves, were able to resist the ill effects, because, what should have happened if Biden was correct, then what should have been good for the Hispanic community should have been good for everybody else. Doesn't common sense seem to indicate that?
Absolutely. At this point, we're a community that has 63 million people. We represent almost 20% of all Americans. And if we want to talk about, how Biden's policies have affected the Hispanic community, we can ask the Hispanic community. And when you ask them, you see that Biden's approval rate among the Hispanic community is 19% right now, which is abysmally low.
Right. Well, we saw in the last election, the midterms, even in 2020, the movement of the traditional Hispanic vote moving more to conservatism. And I think that in most cases, I mean, it's quite interesting. I will say this, Isabel, you know little of my story. This is the first time that you and I have met on the radio. But when I started doing this radio show almost 15 years ago, I had a couple of national syndicators come to me and they said that they had never heard of a conservative Hispanic. I said, well, you don't know our people. At the very heart of who we are conservative. I mean, we look at it, we're not monolithic, and it's not straight across the board one way or another, but our tendency is to think, I guess if you put the two choices, you know, liberal or conservative, the Hispanic community has a tendency to be more conservative because we're more family oriented, right?
Absolutely. I mean, we are, I think, as a community, like you said, not a monolith, but generally, dispositionally, we're conservative.
Yes.
We have strong families. We like having strong families, having large families. You mentioned before, we're extremely entrepreneurial. I think it's 1 out of every 4 small business owners or people who start a business are Hispanic.
Right.
But we need to get government out of the way to
exactly.
let us live and let us thrive.
Well, like you say, we like big families and we're willing to pay for it. We'll work hard for our big families, you know, and we just need to get government. I mean, if you want to help us, but, you know, don't cause problems, you know, with all these regulations and turn everything into regulation nation. I mean, how frustrating, because here we are, you know, we're contributing and working hard, and we're an asset to any nation. And we want to be an asset to this nation and appreciated. And so, you know, we will continue to do this because we're hardwired to do this. And this is, I think, what people are realizing more and more. What about the border issue? With your sense, how are Hispanics responding? Because I don't think that the Hispanic perception or, you know, of what's happening at the border is being, you know, is being reported on fairly. I think it's assumed by Democrats that all Hispanics are for open borders.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one of the things that we as Libre work on. We want to elevate the Hispanic voice and actually put forward policies that as a community we want and will be effective. So we're typically, with the top line, big media hits are presenting a false choice between border security and an effective immigration system and immigration reform. These two things can and should coexist.
Well,
so we need to make reform. We need to secure the border.
Right. There needs to be law and order. I mean, you know, and the thing is, what people don't understand is that when you have open borders and you have people coming in that have been unvetted, you know, where's their first stop? They're going to stop in these communities that they're more familiar with, and they're wreaking havoc and causing crime to increase in these otherwise peaceful Hispanic communities, right?
Right, and that's the thing that's not talked about is where are people coming into? They're coming into largely Hispanic communities, and as you know, our community generally is pretty tough on crime if you look at the polling.
Right.
This is something very within our interest to keep our communities, ourselves, and our families safe.
Yeah, but when they're being overwhelmed, I mean, we're going to end up in some of these communities looking like Chicago, parts of Chicago, and you know, and creating no-go zones because you have, you know, MS-13 gang members and other groups that are coming, you know, cartel members. Cartel's a bigger effect right now in the Hispanic community that's being reported as well, Isabel, right?
Yeah, so violence is a huge issue. And we need to get that under control. I mean, it's in our major cities, and like you mentioned, it's in these border towns as well. And the other side of this is understanding how to properly utilize what is the legal pathways and make that work for us as well.
Exactly. Well, because it's in the best interest of all concerned here. Now, did Joe Biden address this at all in the State of the Union?
It seems like he skipped around it. I mean, he's presenting this false choice of, oh, well, Republicans must not like the Hispanic community. And it's just falsehood over and over and over again, when what we can do is make common sense reforms that not only keep all communities, particularly Hispanic communities, safe, but help grow our economy. And I have not seen a policy, at least coming out of the Biden administration, that is actively going to do either of those things.
Right. And, and it's important for people to understand here, whether it has to do with Hispanics or any other minority, we want this government to be successful. It's in our best interest. But it seems that there is a disconnect as to how we get there. How does America regain its strength, its national security? How does America renew itself in such a way to where, regardless of color of skin or ethnic background, that you have a fair shot at being successful? I mean, this is what has made America great. It's been the land of possibilities and the land of opportunity. But it seems that there's a new world order that is being thrust upon the American people, that the American people are out of, we're disconnected from it. And I don't care what color of the skin you are. It's just, wait a minute, this doesn't seem to make sense, starting with the energy sector and so many other things that you wonder, you go, okay, well, how are we supposed to react here? To make sure that we are doing best, for ourselves and for our families, Isabel?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tough question. Like, what do we do in a situation like this where it seems like we're headed in the wrong direction? I mean, right now, we can't pretend like we're not still recovering from the huge economic shock of COVID-19.
Right.
The consequences of the choices that were made we're still feeling it.
Exactly.
All of us are still feeling it.
Well,
and so we need to be able to elect leaders that can actually help and do things to stimulate the economy.
We might have to do it old school Hispanic way. And that is pull up our own bootstraps and take control of these local areas. We've been talking a lot about power at the local level, and that's what may need to happen. I mean, our kids took a big hit, 2.5 years. They were dumbed down, mediocratized. Our labor force was mediocratized, and there needs to be a voice that rallies everybody together. I mean, I have a specific idea as to how we can overcome this 2-year deficiency. And boy, I've talked about it time and again, and sooner or later somebody's going to pick up on this, because I believe that not all is lost, that 2 years can be redeemed, and that in the process of correcting, of doing a course correction, we can set a future and a trajectory for kids, whether they're Hispanic, black, minority, it doesn't matter, but set them on a road for success and to regain this lost ground that was thrust upon us and upon our kids by the educational system and the teachers' unions, in my humble opinion.
Certainly, there's a lot to be done and a lot that needs to be done. You mentioned we need a voice to speak to this.
Exactly.
I'll point to Representative Sistamani. He provides a great example of what the Hispanic community is.
Isabel Soto, thank you for being with us.